Hi again, everyone. Gary Digit Williams here on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. And the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network can be heard on Spreaker.com and on iHeartRadio and on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on TuneIn. We are on Stitcher as well. And we're on YouTube. And you go to Gary Williams' page on YouTube. You go to my Twitter page, Digital25. You hear it there, and also hear it on the Boxing on Beltway podcast page on Facebook. So a lot of places you can hear the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. A little shorter podcast this week. We have a couple of results that came out of a card in Rock Hill, South Carolina this past weekend. Also, we will talk about some changes in a couple of bouts that will take place in the next couple of weeks in October. Actually, one is actually off the calendar now. We'll tell you why about that. And also one has changed and some interesting changes with that bout coming up on in October. And we're going to talk about this week in our historical segment. We're going to talk about one of the greatest gatekeepers. And I think he may be the greatest in all Beltway boxing history. But he may be one of the greatest of all time when it comes to being a gatekeeper. And I'll explain what a gatekeeper is when we get to the segment. But for those who don't know. But this man didn't have the most successful career, but he had a most interesting career indeed. And we're going to talk more about him coming up this week on the podcast. The Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain, muscle strain, everything between. Boxing Law on the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, now endorsed by two-time World Heavyweight Champion Big George Foreman. So try his knockout formula of Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods, on Deborah, DEBRA Spears.com. Well, this past Saturday, September 26th, at the Hilton Garden Inn in Rock Hill, South Carolina, a couple of young Beltway boxers, got good wins on that same card. Atlanta, Maryland light heavyweight Aaron the Wolf Thorne. Actually, I think he fought as a middleweight on this card. And he won a 4-round unanimous decision over Theron Smalls of Charleston, South Carolina. He's originally from Harlem, New York. Now, Thorne competed for the first time. She scored a first-round TKO over William Davis in Vienna, Virginia at the Tyson's Playground on December of 2019. And Thorne is now 2-0, 1 KO. Smalls remains winless at 0-7, but all of his bouts have been against either debuting boxers or boxers winning records. So Thorne put off a pretty good win this past week, fighting a guy who had been against some pretty good competition early on. So once again, Aaron the Wolf Thorne III out of Atlanta, Maryland. He won a 4-round unanimous decision over Theron Smalls of Charleston, South Carolina. On that very same card, the educated boxer Dorian Boster got of Dundalk, Maryland. He's a lightweight, and he's an educated boxer because he's actually working toward his PhD. Believe it or not, he sure is. And so that's a great one. He only needed 10 seconds of the second round to knock out the debuting Juwan Jones of South Carolina. Bostic, who's actually a native of Cheraw, South Carolina, secured that win very, very easily in the second round. Bostic is now 3-0, 3 KOs with Juwan Jones again making his pro debut. Now, another local prospect was scheduled to be on that card, welterweight Akeem Action Jackson out of Oxon Hill, Maryland. He has a record of 1-1, 1 KO. But I tell you, look at this card. There must have been like 13 bouts on this card. And 13, 14, almost 15 bouts on the card. And the bout was scratched because due to time constraints on the card, and that's why Jackson did not compete on the card. So good win for a couple of Beltway boxers in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Matter of fact, Dorian Boster's headed back there, I think a little bit later on, either this month or next month. He'll be headed right back to the Hilton Garden Inn in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So congratulations to two Beltway boxers there. Now, coming up tonight, as we record this, Friday night, the Lion King, Jonathan Ryan Burrs, he'll be competing in a 4-round bout against Brian the Hunter Palatko on El Fijado, Puerto Rico. at the Osceola Heritage Park in Kissimmee, Florida. Now, you can watch this bout. You have to learn a little Spanish. You can watch this bout because it'll be live on Telemundo, part of their Boxeo Telemundo broadcast. And the broadcast actually begins at midnight Eastern Time. Ryan Burrs is 2-2. He looks to bounce back from a 4-round unanimous decision loss to debuting Javier Martinez on July 14th in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, Polaco is going to be a tough one. He's a member of the Puerto Rican national team. He's 2-0. Both his wins by knockout, and both of those knockouts came in the first round. His last win was against Joshua Sykes. That was on September 4th in Kissimmee. He's fought all of his bouts now. This will be third straight bout in Kissimmee. And more importantly, this will be Polaco's third bout in 6 weeks. So he's a very busy man early on in his young pro career. So Brian the Hunter Polaco of Fajardo, Puerto Rico, he'll take on the Lion King, Jonathan Ryan Burrs of Frederick, Maryland, super welterweight bout. And you can see it once again on Boxeo Telemundo starting at midnight Eastern Time. Not sure when in the card he's going to be on it, but he will be on that card coming up tonight on Friday night here in Kissimmee, Florida. Now, we had a couple of big bouts scheduled for October. One of those bouts, however, got canceled. And got canceled not because of the boxers that were scheduled to be competing on the card. This took about, they didn't cause the cancellation. The boxers who were in the main event caused the cancellation. I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Baltimore, Maryland super lightweight, the undefeated Malik Iceman Hawkins. He was scheduled to compete on a card in a 10-round bout against Subriel Matias of Puerto Rico. That was scheduled to be on Saturday, October 10th at Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut, but the bout has been called off. Hawkins was 18-0, 11 KOs. Neither he nor Matias, Puerto Rico, 15-1, 15 KOs. Of course, one of his last bouts was in the MGM National Harbor Casino, and that was a bout against Maxim Dadashev, in which Dadashev ended up losing his life there. The reason why the bout was canceled had nothing to do with either Hawkins nor Matias. Had to do with the main event, between welterweights Kudatillo Abdukakharov and Sergey Lipinets. Sergey Lipinets, of course, knocked out Lamont Peterson in one of his last bouts. They were scheduled to compete for the interim IBF welterweight title, but Abdukakharov had a visa issue that would not have been cleared up in time for him to come to the United States for the COVID testing. All the boxers are coming into the United States and coming to places like Mohegan Sun Casino a week prior to the bout to get tested for COVID-19. And so the visa issue was not going to let him come back in time for that. So the whole card was canceled. Now, and no word whether or not the Hawkins-Matias bout this whole card was scheduled to be on Showtime on Saturday, October 10th. However, there's a possibility. Right now, it's only a possibility. There's nothing definite by any stretch of imagination on this. But there's a possibility that this bout may land on the recently rescheduled card featuring Javonte Davis taking on Leo Santa Cruz. That bout has been rescheduled for Saturday, October 31st. And that'll be held at the Alamo Dome now in San Antonio, Texas. Now, originally, that bout was scheduled for Saturday, October 24th at Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. But this bout, once again, will take place Saturday, October 31st at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Now, the interesting part about this, two things. Number one, there'll be two titles in two different weight classes on the line. Davis puts up his WBA lightweight title. He's 23-0, 22 KOs. And Santa Cruz will put up his WBA Super Featherweight Championship on the line. Santa Cruz is 37-1-1, 19 KOs. Also, this will be one of the first contests he fought in front of an audience, as sporting events in the state of Texas now allowed to have 25% capacity. This is a 70,000-seat stadium, so there'll probably be about 10,000, 15,000 people there, somewhere along those lines. I've never been good at math, but be as it may. It'll be 25% capacity. Now, the other reason why the card is not being held on the 24th, it's going to be held 1 week later on Saturday, October 31st, is because there's a University of Texas San Antonio college football game that's going to be in the Alamo Dome on October 24th. It still will be on Showtime. The card will be a Showtime. Matter of fact, it'll be a Showtime pay-per-view. And I'm trying to find out when was the last time a Beltway Boxer headlined a pay-per-view. And to tell you the truth, I cannot remember one anytime recently. So I got to look at more details on that one and find out. Hopefully by next week I'll have that information for you. But it's a good possibility that Javonte Davis may be one of the first people to headline a pay-per-view, maybe since Sugar Ray Leonard. I don't know. I have to check that out. I have to find out. So he's going to headline. He and Santa Cruz going to headline that card. It'll be on Saturday, October 31st at the Alamo Dome. There's a possibility that Malik Hawkins and Sabriel Martinez's bout may end up on that card. It makes sense. Both Davis and Hawkins are Mayweather Promotions fighters. This is a Mayweather Promotions card. I believe Malik Warren is already on the card. Malik King Warren out of Baltimore. And maybe Lorenzo Simpson as well. And, of course, they're all out of the same gym, Upton Boxing Gym in Baltimore. And so we'll see what happens. But that could be an interesting situation there. That, once again, Malik Hawkins' bout called off for Saturday, October 10th. And the bout between Javonte Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, which will be a pay-per-view card on Showtime, will be Saturday, October 31st now. It'll be held at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Now, let me explain my tribute for this week. We've done a lot of tributes on great boxers, world champions. We've done a lot of tributes on great events that have taken place in Beltway boxing history. Last week, our last podcast, we talked about some of the boxers from out of town, the boxers I love to watch come into town every time they come in. They've come in numerous times. And many of those boxers were what we call gatekeepers. Now, for those who don't know, a gatekeeper is a boxer that usually can give a very tough performance. They will test the up-and-coming rising star. And 9 times out of 10, they'll lose. Every now and then, they might get an upset win. But they make the boxers truly, truly work for the victory that they get. And it's happened a number of times in the Beltway. You talk about Greg Hackett, for example. Greg Hackett, I mentioned when I talked about him in our last podcast. Greg Hackett made Jarrett Hurd work and made him look awkward. But really, one of the reasons why Jarrett Hurd became a world champion is because of guys like Greg Hackett. Because he had to work through that adversity that Greg Hackett brought upon him. And the next time he saw something like that, he was more prepared for it. Next time he saw an awkward boxer, Jarrett Hurd was prepared for it. So boxing needs these type of competitors because they really help the rising star become the great star that they become. And I think in the Beltway, out of the Beltway, no one did this better than a heavyweight out of Hillcrest Heights, Maryland. And I think not only is he one of the best gatekeepers in Beltway boxing history, I think he's just one of the best gatekeepers in history of boxing, in the entire boxing history. People ask sometimes on Facebook and other places, who had the hardest chin in boxing? Well, a lot of people say, people like Ernie Shavers and other great boxers who are more well known. But every time I see that question, and I've seen it many times on Facebook, the person I always put down is a man by the name of Marion Jackhammer Wilson. Marion Jackhammer Wilson did not have a great record. He was never in any challenge for a world title or anything like that. He was a gatekeeper. But what makes him special are two things. In the career of Marion Wilson, which stretched from 1989 all the way to 2007, the man fought just about every major heavyweight boxer during that time period. Very few he did not face. He did not face Riddick Bowe. He did not face Lennox Lewis. But Other than that, as far as the contenders and the guys who want to be contenders and the world champions, in many cases, in the heavyweight and sometimes cruiser, well, mostly heavyweight division, he fought them. And in a grand total of 57 bouts, Marion Jackhammer Wilson, going up against some of these great heavyweights, was knocked out a grand total of 0 times. So we're going to look at his career. He was special. No question about that. Marion Jackhammer Wilson's career started on August 14, 1989. He had a 4-round majority draw against Charles Dredd, and that was at the Teamsters Hall in Baltimore, Maryland. He got his first win on February 13, 1990 against Bilal Muhammad at the National Guard Army in Pikesville, Maryland. Scored a 4th round TKO. He fought all over the area. Fought the likes of James Thompson, won a 4-round split decision there in July of 1990 at Coolidge Senior High School, Frank Williams Activity Center, Coolidge Senior High School in Washington, D.C. He knocked out Maurice Gray. Gray was making his pro debut on September 6, 1990 at the Teamsters Hall in Baltimore. He won by disqualification over Robert Jackson in November of 1990 at LaFontaine Blue in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Scored the first round, win by disqualification. Scored a 3rd round knockout of Bruce Johnson in March of 1991, LaFontaine Blue in Glen Burnie. And then he would go on to fight more established and more fight with more accomplished opponents. Take, for example, when he fought Franz Botha, who would later become a world champion, on May 29, 1992. He lost by 8-round decision. He lost to Terrell Biggs on December 8, 1992 at the Hyatt Regency in Tampa, Florida, a 10-round unanimous decision. March 25, 1993, he would lose an 8-rounder to Jeremy Williams. Again, very popular heavyweights these were. On July 10th, 1993, in Fernwood Resort in Bushkill, Pennsylvania, he loses by points decision to Andrew Galata. November 30th, 1993, Wilson lost a 10-round unanimous decision to Jay Scott at Martin's West in Woodlawn, Maryland. On February 26, 1994, Vaughn Bean would defeat Marion Wilson by 6-round unanimous decision. He would, however, win a 6-round unanimous decision. He'd break that 6-bout losing streak and win a 6-round unanimous decision over Thomas Top Dog Williams Sr., the father of Thomas Jr. June 4th, 1994 was the date there in Reno, Nevada, the Reno Hilton Hotel, outdoor arena there. Then he'd come back and get one of his biggest decisions in history when he would battle Ray Mercer, Merciless Ray Mercer, to a 10-round split decision draw. Now, Mercer at the time was 23-2 going into that bout. And a lot of people thought that Wilson should have won that bout. This bout took place at the Atlantic City Convention Center in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This was on July 28th, 1994. And a lot of people thought that Wilson should have won that bout. And I just recently talked to Marion Wilson. He thought he should have won the bout. Be that as it may. Then on September 1st, 1994, Wilson would lose a 10-round unanimous decision to James Thunder, who I believe just passed away not too long ago. That's what I thought I heard. Maybe I hope I'm wrong on that, but we'll see. That took place at the Albuquerque Convention Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He would travel to Germany, Halle Nordheim, Westfalen, Germany, and lose by 8-round points decision to Zeko Maverick, who was 13-0 going in that bout. On January 3rd, 1990, that was on October 8th, 1994. On January 3rd, 1995, he would lose by 10-round decision to Aurelio Perez in Brazil, in Pernambuco, Brazil. He come back to the Fernwood Resort, Bushkill, Pennsylvania, on February 3rd, 1995, and lose an 8-round unanimous decision to Kirk Johnson. Then on March 24th, 1995, Marion Wilson take up a bout with Shannon the Cannon Briggs, and Wilson would lose an 8-round unanimous decision at the South Mountain Arena in West Orange, New Jersey. He'd have a rematch against Andrew Galata That took place on April 11, 1995 at the Bismarck Pavilion in Chicago, Illinois. Once again, Wilson would lose a 10-round unanimous decision. On August 23rd, 1995, Wilson would lose by fifth-round disqualification to David Izon. That took place in Alpes-Maritimes, France. And once again, Wilson ran a streak at that time of no less than 6 straight undefeated boxers going in that streak. All those 6 of those losses all came to undefeated boxers. He scored a win in a 10-round split decision over Mike the Bounty Hunter Sr. The late Mike Bounty Hunter Sr., October 6, 1995 at Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So you get a win there. On November 3rd, 1995, Wilson would lose a 10-round majority decision over Jeff Wooden. Jeff Wooden was 9-1 going into that bout. 9-0 going into that bout, excuse me. Then on December 13th, 1995, Wilson would lose a 10-round majority decision to Obed Sullivan at the Trop World Hotel Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, again, all these bouts are coming right close to each other, and the reason being because Wilson was that gatekeeper. He was the boxer that great boxers who wanted to be greater and become world champions, they had to get by a guy like Marion Wilson in order to and look good doing it. And a lot of times they didn't. They got the win sometimes, but they didn't look great doing it sometimes. On April 19th, 1996, Wilson would lose an 8-round unanimous decision to Terrence Lewis. He'd get a rematch against Thomas Williams Sr., and I guess Wilson just had Williams' number because at the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on June 14th, 1996, Wilson would win by first round TKO. Probably the most impactful win of Wilson's career. May have been against Thomas Williams. Thomas Williams just, for whatever reason, didn't have it. I don't know. We'll see. Then on November 14th, 1996, now I was actually at this bout too. This took place in Michael 8th Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, where Wilson took up a bout against Orlin Juice Norris. Orlin Norris is the older brother of legendary middleweight and junior middleweight champion Terrible Terry Norris, Hall of Famer. Orlin Norris was one time a cruiserweight champion himself. Bout took place once again, Michael 8th Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, November 14th, 1996, and Wilson would lose a 10-round split decision. And this is a bout that I thought, no question, Wilson won this bout. It was a really good bout. It really was a nice bout. 2 guys were going toe-to-toe, but Wilson was really, I thought, the better boxer that night. No question about it. But they got the loss there by 10-round split decision. Then on March 6, 1997, he fought a guy that if anybody was going to get a knockout on Wilson, it probably would have been this guy. But he didn't. That's Ike Ibeabuchi. Ike Ibeabuchi, who was, again, before he went into prison, he was a guy that really many people thought would be a world champion at one point. And on March 6, 1997, Ibeabuchi defeated Wilson by 10-round unanimous decision. So if anybody was going to get a victory by knockout over Marion Jackhammer Wilson, it would have been the professor, not the professor, I forget his nickname, Ike Ibeabuchi. And he only got a decision, unanimous decision, on March 6, 1997. Then on June 13, 1997, at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York, Wilson would lose by 10-round unanimous decision to Carl the Truth Williams. Again, another quality boxer. Guy fought for world titles. This guy, these were some quality boxers, a lot of them, that Wilson fought over his career. July 20th, 1997, Wilson would fight and lose a 10-round unanimous decision to Robert Hawkins at the Claridge Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Back at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland, Wilson would pick up another win, this time over Corey T-Rex Sanders. Remember the big heavyweight out of Washington, D.C.? Big in more ways than one. He was 6'7". That was a great bout. I think I was at that bout, too. That was October 29, 1997, and Wilson would win an 8-round unanimous decision. Wilson then fight another world champion on March 27, 1998, when he fight Greg Page and would lose an 8-round unanimous decision. Greg Page, I believe, was coming through his comeback at that time. Memory served me correct. So that was a big win, big loss for Wilson. Good win for Greg Page. On April 24th, 1998, in Quebec, Canada, Wilson would lose by 8-round unanimous decision to Shazan Bradley. May 9th, 1988, Wilson would pick up his almost his last win in May of 1998, May 9th to be exact, at Trump Taj Mahal. Wilson would win by 6-round majority decision over Paya Wolfgram. tough bout, boxer out of the islands, and Wilson took care of business that night. On June 12, 1998, Wilson would lose a 10-round unanimous decision to Ezra Sellers, former cruiserweight champion, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Then in the theater of Madison Square Garden, Wilson would meet up once again with David Izon. That was on July 18, 1998, and he would lose an 8-round unanimous decision at Madison Square Garden Theater, New York. October 2nd, 1998, Wilson would lose an 8-rounder to Derek Jefferson. Then on November 12th, 1998, see how put together these bouts are, one right after another almost. And he would lose to Michael Rush on November 12th in Worley, Idaho by 10-round unanimous decision. Then on December 8th, 1998, Wilson lost an 8-round unanimous decision to Oleg Maskayev at the Roseland Ballroom in New York City. He would come back on June 12th, 1999, and lose a 5-round technical decision to Larry Donald, guy who fought Riddick Bowe for a title. That was in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Then on March 1st, 2000, in Martins West, and I was there for that one, Martins West in Woodlawn, Maryland, he would take on an all-Beltway bout. Marion Wilson would battle Hasim the Rock Rockman Sr. And that was at Martins West, as I said, and on March 1st, 2000, and Wilson would lose by 10-round unanimous decision. Then he loses an 8-round unanimous decision to Jason Robinson on May 17, 2000 in the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. On January 12, 2001, Wilson lost a 10-round unanimous decision to Farouk Salim at the Sands Casino Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, you also notice from 1989 when he started all the way to we're up to 2001. It was completely nonstop for Wilson. He fought his entire career. He didn't take a break for a long time to come after this. 2001, Wilson lost an 8-round unanimous decision to Robert Davis. Then on June 29, 2001, Wilson lost a 6-round points decision to Robert Wiggins. Then at Ramada Inn Hotel in New Carrollton, Maryland, Wilson lost a 6-round unanimous decision to an up-and-coming rising heavyweight by the name of Tony the Tiger Thompson. That was very interesting there. And that was on February 2nd, 2002. And Thompson won a 6-round unanimous decision. Then on March 3rd, 2002, Wilson would lose a 4-round unanimous decision to an up-and-coming boxer by the name of Samuel Peter. And Peter was a very good boxer back then. Very early in his career. On October 15, 2004, the JC's Community Center in Waldorf, Maryland, that's where Golden Gloves used to be held for many years. Marion Wilson would battle Jason Waller. This was a guy who was a pretty good heavyweight back in the day. Very exciting heavyweight, one of the first heavyweights we had on our Boxing Spotlight series. And they would fight to a 4-round draw in 2004. By that time, Waller had been long ahead in his career. The two would rematch on November 19, 2004 at the Burns Arena in Baltimore, Maryland, and Marion Wilson picked up his last victory, scoring a 4th-round knockout in that bout. Then on February 5th, 2005, Wilson would lose by a 6-round disqualification to a former world champion by the name of Oliver McCall. Oliver McCall would beat Wilson in that bout, 6-round disqualification. On June 16, 2005, Wilson would lose a 4-round unanimous decision to another up-and-coming heavyweight at the time named Chaz Witherspoon. And then finally, on February 24, 2007, in his final bout, 2 years after his bout with Witherspoon, February 24, 2007, Wilson would lose by 8-round unanimous decision to Oliver McCall once again. That bout took place at the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. So Wilson's total record was 12 wins, 41 losses, 4 draws, 12 wins, 41 losses, 4 draws, 5 wins by knockout, but had never been knocked out in his boxing career. Again, he was interesting because he'd always give good shows. You can see he was very well respected by promoters who would always give him opportunities because, again, he would give their rising stars some very good work. And they go to rounds with him. He wasn't going to knock out. He would survive in there. And he was one of the best, if not the best, gatekeeper I've ever seen in this area. And one of the best of all time. And he's a guy who calls me on a regular basis. He and I have become friends, and he has called me and asked me questions. And he's a very, very interesting man. No question about that. And I also had a connection with him because his late nephew, Versace Wilson, was a former student of mine at Booker T. Washington Public Charter School in Washington, D.C. And sadly, he lost his life to sickle cell anemia. And it was a tough loss. He was only about 20, 21 years old. And a really nice guy. Great student. Got along with him very, very well. He was very, 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 very good student, and I miss him. And he was, and I should have known when I first saw him because he looked just like Marion Wilson. So I should have known there was a connection. I finally found out there actually was a connection between the two. So I really was sad to see that. But Marion Wilson was one of a kind, no question about that. So I tribute to truly one of the great gatekeepers in Beltway boxing and indeed boxing history, Marion Jackhammer Wilson. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network. Remember, the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, shoulder pain, muscle strain, everything between. Boxing on the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief. So try George Foreman's knockout formula for Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. Don't forget, if you buy a bottle of Real-Time Pain Relief, get a free $10 tube, $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief, get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief. And also don't forget to visit DeborahSpears.com, DEBERA Spears.com for great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods. My name is Gary Digital Williams. Thank you so much for joining me each and every week. And always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the belt. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.